Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today, we'll talk about building a database. When we'll try to build a database, we need to follow some guidelines. And we'll see about creating a table in a design view, and we'll talk about modifying the structure and managing the field properties. So let's talk about guidelines for designing a database. For designing a database, first of all, you need to identify or you need to list all the columns that are needed to produce the required information. In our example, we are planning for a patient database. Now, in a patient database, what data we need to maintain? So we would like to maintain the patient name and address and patient phone number and patient email. And we will also maintain the patient, what is the reason for the patient to visit, which date he visited, was it a walk-in or it was an appointment. Patient will pay some money as well. So we would like to maintain the billing information, invoice amount, invoice date, invoice whether he paid the invoice or not paid. So all these information, all these fields, we will write it down in a list, in a long list, and then we will try to group them into different tables. So now if you see, so we have patient information, that is one group. Then we have the patient will visit to the doctor, that is a second group. Patient will make the payment, that is a third group of fields. So we will group them together and we will try to find, is there any primary key that we can have for this table? So for example, for patient ID is the best primary key that we can have. Okay, so we will have a patient ID as a primary key for the patient table. How about the visit? Oh, we must have to have a visit ID then. And similarly, for the billing, okay, billing is an invoice, so we need to have invoice number, that will be the primary key. So that is how we define the primary key. Now the next thing is we have to make a relationship. We have to find the common fields between the tables. Okay, the patient ID and the patient will make the visit. So what should we do? So we can bring the patient ID. Let me make it a bigger size. Okay, now in the patient table, in the visit table, we will add the patient ID. Okay, so this will make a common field between the two tables. Now, for every visit, patient has to make payment. Okay, so in the billing, we will have a visit ID. You see that? So that is how we are creating common columns between the table. Now the patient is related to visit and the visit is related to the billing. So we'll talk about this one inshallah in future as well in detail. Another important guideline is avoid data redundancy. Yani duplicate column, try to avoid as much as you can. We can duplicate the primary keys, no problem. That is fine. As long as it is a key of another table, you can use it in a different table. But any other column other than key should not be the part of any table. For example, the last name. Last name is available in this one. So we should not be using last name here. This is not a good idea. So we should discourage this part. So this is data redundancy. We can use primary key, no problem. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, The primary key, it is a primary key here, okay? It is a primary key in this table. And when it comes to this table, it becomes a foreign key. You know, this becomes a foreign key. So here in visit table, it is a foreign key. In the patient table, it is a primary key. Primary key means unique value. You cannot find the duplicate here. 2, you see 42, 44. So this is all unique. But in this case, if you see this patient, like Julia, visited 3 times. So, but here visit ID is different. Every time it comes, it is a different visit ID. But it's the same patient. So we have the same patient ID, and same patient ID. So this is okay. As long as it is a key, it is okay. But last name, first name, any other column other than the key, if you are using in another table, this is what we call data redundancy, and this is not a good practice unless you are sure that you really need it. And we have some special cases where we can encourage data redundancy, but not all the time. Okay, so let's create a table in a registration database, and the table name is billing, and this is the fields. Okay, so let's see, we can create a table. So we can go for the create, and we can say, okay, I want to create a table in a design view. So click on let me see if I can find a table and design. You see here, I can click on the design view directly here, so it will come at this. So I can say invoice num, this is the short text, then visit ID, this is the short text, invoice amount. By default it will pick the short text, okay, and we'll fix it, invoice date, and then invoice paid. Now let's go and fix the data types. So invoice amount is a currency, so I can go here and I can pick currency. So you see here we have many types, so we can pick the currency side. Now invoice date is the date and time. You can go there and we can pick the date. By the way, I can go here and I can press D, the date and time will come. You see that shortcut. In the invoice field, invoice paid, yes or no, you see here, pick this one. Now invoice number, the size of this column is 5, so I can say field size is 5. And similarly the visit ID, the size is 4. There you go. Invoice amount is okay, date and paid, this is fine. So that is how I define my table. So I can name it billing, save as billing. Oh, we didn't define the primary key. Okay, cancel this one, and I can say, okay, invoice number is a primary key. Yeah, it added a primary key by itself, but this is not I'm looking at, so I can right click and delete this row. Yeah, and I can put a primary key on this part, on this space. So there you go. So invoice number is my primary key now. So I can save the database, I can close the database. Now let's go and see. We would like to make the modification in the structure of the table. So in the billing structure, we need to modify design, go to the, so right click and design. Okay, now I want to change the structure, yani move this amount to between the date and paid. There you go. And now between the date and paid, I need to insert a row, okay, another column, and that is invoice item and the short text. Okay, so that is what we call changing the structure of the table. Let me close this one, go for the next slide. Okay, Invoice amount, yeah, we did the invoice amount. And then, okay, we need to modify the size of the, okay, let's go and design view, right click and design view. Invoice item is short text and the size is 40. There you go. And the caption is invoice item. Caption is for display only, okay? This is the column name, but when it will display as a, so let me cancel this part, save it, and let me display. You see here, invoice item is displayed like a field name. Invoice amount, invoice date, they are just like a field name. Now let me go and change the caption of this invoice item. I say this is invoice item with a space. I can save it. I can, you see here, I got a space now. So this caption is only for the display. But wherever we have to go for the field, we will use the field name. We'll see inshallah. Now changing the properties, field properties. So visit date, let's go back. And now we have a visit invoice date. Okay, visit date. So we have to go for the visit table then. So right click on this one and go for the design, and we have a visit date, and this is short date. So go here and try to find the short date. There you go. Okay, and now we have the anything else. That's it. So I can save it. Let me go for the other field. Okay, the visit ID. The visit ID is 4. So normally it is 255. You know, whenever it is a short text, so we 255. So we have to remove it and we have to put it 4. And then we have patient ID. Is the short text. Usually it is 255. Okay, if it is 255, then what you need to do, go and replace it here. We have to add the description like a primary key. Okay, primary key. And similarly, we have to write foreign key. And this visit date, the caption is date of visit. Date of visit, that is how you're going to. And reason, I already typed the reason diagnostic, and the size is 60. I have already fixed it. The walk-in is yes or no, and this is walk-in question mark. Okay, so this is how we are going to modify the fields properties. By the way, this is a field. Visit ID is a field. Okay, and the field, these are the properties for the field visit ID. When I'll go for the patient, you will see it is chained. The value will be chained. There you go. The field patient ID has these properties. Okay, so these are the properties. That's it. So that's it for today. Inshallah, in the next lecture, we'll see how we can add the records. We'll talk about importing data from Excel sheet. And we'll try to do some relationship as well among the tables. So Jazakumullah khair. Kafara majlis. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.